inside, our hearts so built by, and we'll never tire. We do not comply. We do not comply.
Like Javier Bardem must have been like, this is a good role. So there must be something about it. Like, you know, I love that guy.
That's actually pretty good.
That was great.
Well, it's all from, what is it? The Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Like his whole thing. Dan, did you turn my volume down?
I turned your gain down because you were pretty hot in there.
Yeah, but you're hotter than all of us.
Yeah, you're
You're the
Can't you
hottest
hear
of them
this?
all.
you're scorching, Dan.
Like he doesn't realize.
Dan, I know you're never going to hear this ever again, but you're the hottest person in the room.
do you realize that like in your ears is the mix?
I was looking at the monitor.
Hear
Wow,
you?
I'm
Hear
super
you?
hot.
Dan, do better.
He's good.
I don't hear myself on that.
Well, all we can hear is you.
Yeah,
Well, good. That's how it's going to be from now on.
it should not be that way, and you should probably turn me back up because I'm an egomaniac.
Okay.
That's what he does.
I'll just talk like this.
Yeah, just whisper to us.
I'll
ESMR.
go
You're just
very-
going to ESMR.
Oh, dear.
Hi, welcome to What a Peak podcast.
What a peak. What did you say? There he is. This is how we're going to start it. We're going to start it off with technical
I'm
difficulties.
just going to mute myself.
Please do.
Only speak ASMR when you talk to it.
That's how it's going to be for this week.
This is how you make soup. So Dani Ruhf,
Here I am.
Dani Ruhf,
Yeah. Well,
What's
how
going
are you
on?
gonna do it? Yeah.
how are you?
I couldn't be better. Not a single complaint.
There is no irony in that statement whatsoever.
No.
No?
Life is amazing.
I want to ask you something that's really been bothering me for the past couple of weeks. First of all, I'm happy you're here. I'm so proud and grateful for everything you're doing. How does your significant other get his beard to be the way it is? Did you see his beard?
Yeah,
It's epic.
I'm aware.
It's majestic. Yeah.
It
It's
really
great.
is. It's something like if you look at it in silhouette, you're like, I must draw this. Like it's such a good.
He's going to be so happy to
What's
hear
he
that.
put in it?
I make him beard oil.
What do you make? How do you do this?
I put love in it. Lots of love. And
Of course.
a ton of patchouli. And
Oh, he smells like a.
yes, he
He
does.
smells like Woodstock.
He does. And everyone can smell him everywhere. And then a bunch of different oils. Yeah.
So my wife started doing stuff like that, like for her hair and
Yeah.
her face. Like she started using all this stuff instead of the no offense to what you do. She just started and she has like what is it? She has like juice. She has like bottles of this stuff in the fridge, and she does castor oil everywhere. Like
Yeah.
she's like everything's clearing up. It's amazing. Like I'm so excited. So how did you figure this out before I did? How did you figure out like the patchouli and the other things that go together?
I love that we're talking about this.
I love this. Yeah.
Beard oil is really expensive, especially
is.
at the height of like the beard phenomenon. And so, it got crazy there for a while with all the beards.
Yeah.
And I just flipped the bottle over and I was like, I can get clarified coconut oil for Pete's sake. And I just started experimenting with it.
Did you, did you grow up here?
No.
Tell me your story. Where are you from? How did you lose your bet and get to here?
No. Laceyville is where I'm from. Do you know
Where's
where that
that
is?
at? No.
It's an hour north. You know where
Okay.
Tunkhannock is?
Yeah.
Keep going.
All right.
Another half an hour.
Okay.
It's up by like Elk Lake, right?
Thank you, ASMR Dan. Thank you very much, ASMR Dan.
Somewhere up there, yeah.
This is so good.
So you, I mean, obviously you grew up rurally.
In the woods, yeah. Yeah.
Now, did you grow up on a farm? Did you grow up?
I grew up in a town of 200.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Massive.
Huge.
How many people were in your high school graduating class?
83.
7. Oh,
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I
That's it.
still wasn't in the top 10.
I graduated. Graduation at Abington was 64 or 60 or was 65, and I had a 64.6, and they rounded it up. That's how I got out.
Hey.
That's how I graduated. So what was it like growing up there? I mean, because like down, like people in Scranton and like, the cities don't really have any concept of like they think food comes from the grocery store. And they think meat comes from the meat part of the grocery store. So tell me about growing up the way that you did rurally.
This is so interesting because I don't usually talk to people who've never lived in the country.
Sure.
So, yeah. You get,
They need to have perspective on who you are.
well, there's cows everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So you can buy meat at the grocery store, or you can buy meat from a farmer and fill your fridge with it. and you can buy some pigs and fill your freezers with it, and you can get milk from the farmers and eggs from the farmers. And
But even down to, I think people don't realize, like, when you live out there, like, what do you do with your trash? People don't just come
you
by
burn
and
it.
pick it up. Yeah.
Look at here. Look at how you burn it. Like,
you
that's
burn
the way
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, no,
It's a different world.
for sure. And it's
Yeah.
only an hour away.
Yeah.
But yeah, you burn your burnables, and the garbage man comes once a week for the things that you can't burn. I mean, there's recycling, but you have to pay for it.
Mhm.
It's not like they're just saying put it out on the curb.
Most of our recycling does not go to the recycling center.
Wow.
I found that out.
Yeah,
and I was
it
like,
goes in
wait,
the dumpster.
what?
Where does it go?
The dumpster.
Yeah, the same place. They just pretend.
Good.
It's a conspiracy.
Good. I like it.
Isn't that nice? Oh, we're gonna do this thing that it makes us all feel good, but no one knows where it goes.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So continue about like growing up with like Snow White with the birds landing
Yeah.
on you and the deer petting.
It's just so free. You know, when you talk about kids going out until the street light came on, well, there wasn't street lights, but you would just go out and play. You'd play manhunt in fields and get lost. Like, I remember one time going for a walk with my friend in the woods, and we got lost. We were lost all day in the woods, and it was starting to get dusk, and we decided to find a creek because we figured if we followed the creek, it would take us to a river, and then we could follow the river back to some place that was civil. But like, we just would get lost and walk for hours and hours in the woods with nothing.
No cell phones.
Well, no.
It's like it was a better time.
Oh, it was the best time.
What year did you graduate? High school.
95. Yeah.
All right. So you got like 2 years on me.
Okay.
So I graduated in 98.
But you grew up here in the city.
So I grew up my first 9 years in Greenridge.
Oh, okay. Right where we are now. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Like it's like you know, a mile away. And then we moved to West Scranton for like 2 years because my parents decided to build a home up in Clark Summit. Do you know where? Oh my God, would you remember Jim Dandy's? Where the VREC is now. If you go through Clark Summit, they have the Veterinary Referral Emergency Center.
Yeah.
Okay, that used to be this great restaurant. Who Dan to this day still has the best French onion soup.
I hate French onion soup, but you could go there to have a Jim Dandy time.
I remember the commercial.
You'll have and you were supposed to say, "I hate French onion soup."
Yeah, you forgot the. Yeah.
So
You're being aggressively loud.
up the hill, they grew, or they built their house, and I moved up to Layton Road, and it was the first time we heard of like well water.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we had well water, and that was about the only rural proclivity that we partook in. And I went to school at Abington, graduated in 98, moved down to Scranton, started a band, decided I was an alcoholic, went to Florida for film school in 2004, got my bachelor's in like a year and a half, then moved to LA till 2010. And then when I got back here, I really got sober. That's when I
good. I'm
stopped
happy
drinking.
to hear that.
Well, that's the thing about like, there's something about like living around here where it's, and you know, maybe you've noticed it, and I know that these guys have noticed it, where there's like, there's like a pain, and it seems like the only way to deal with the pain is through alcohol or other means. And I don't think that's the way. Like there used to be that old joke where there's a bar and a church on every corner,
Yeah.
and they weren't lying, you know? So like we went through all that. I remember this kid came out to LA to visit, and, you know, like parents are like, you know, my son Johnny's coming out and maybe you could show him LA. And, and I texted him. I'm like, I said, do you drink? And he texted me back and he goes, I'm from Scranton. I never had a choice.
Oh.
So I was like, oh, okay. So we went out drinking. And that's like the mentality of it around here. Like there's this mentality of, you know, you just kind of got to deal with it, and it's not going to get better, and you just go with the punches. And like the joke that we say on here all the time is that like if everyone woke up tomorrow and the streets were lined in horse shit, everyone would just buy taller boots. Which seems like, you know, a bad headspace to be in to make things better. So I always like to hear from people like you who can contrast that, where it's like, you know, I got lost in the woods. I had to figure it out, and I got the education and the experience of knowing what to do when that happens again.
Yeah. Oh, that makes me so sad for here because I spent
We're trying to fix it.
Okay, yeah. I mean, we did have to wear tall boots for the horse shit. So
Yeah, you literally
There was
had
horses.
horses. Yeah.
yeah, and my friends had horses and cows and all the things, but we spent our nights getting lost in the woods or having bonfires in someone's back field, and the parents didn't know where you were. I'm at so and so's house, and they're saying they're at my house, and there was no cell phones, and no one could track us, and we spent our time doing what everyone jokes about, where you're a high schooler, lost somewhere, sitting around a fire, just living your best life. That's sad that you guys didn't get to do that here. What did you do in high school? Like, what did you do?
We drank.
Yeah, we didn't do that.
You had different friends than me, though.
Yeah, because I was cool.
Yeah, no.
Wait.
We spent
Neither
time.
one of you were cool.
I was.
I wasn't cool, but we did spend time out in the country, because Newton Ransom's not too far out. So we used to go ride our bikes out there and stuff, and
Yeah, but I
spend time in the woods and on the train tracks and all that stuff. It's a little bit different, not as country, but
when I was in a teenager, my cousins went to prep.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about prep is that you would get kids from all over the area, right? So it was you'd have the banker's kid, the politician's kid, the hillbilly's kid, the farmer's kid. And you would always go to different places, or they would bring their ideas here. So we would go to parties in the city, and it would just be you'd see rebel flags and country music. And, and no one ever judged. There was none of that division that you see today. And, everyone's Dukes of Hazzard's great. And no one was you're a racist because you like Dukes of Hazzard.
Dukes of Hazzard is great.
It really was. But, I've turned into this guy. I turned into the get off my lawn guy over the last 4 years. And I never thought that it would be me. Cause I always I always thought that I was raging against the system.
Mm-hmm.
And then somehow the system is now a monster that I want nothing to do with. And the kids of the people of my generation kind of see that. And they don't want to put up with it. They want, maybe 40% are crazy and they still want to rage with the system. And then the rest are kind of we don't want to do it. And I always come from that point of view where it's all these different people. And I mean, I know it's prep, but all these different points of view, all these different upbringings, all these different values, and we all got along. We all just, had fun, and we weren't distracted with, there was never the conversation around the campfire where it was did you see what someone posted on Facebook?
Yeah.
And I don't know. That's why I like talking to people like you, because you didn't get corrupted by that.
Mm-hmm.
So that really isn't a dictatorial thing on your North Star. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I was listening to you talk about all that and
reminiscing,
absorbing, and there wasn't social media. And so when you were worked up about someone's opposing view, you were sitting across the fire, and you're not going to say something so inflammatory to them because you're a human talking to a human, not a screen talking to a screen. So if you hate the way that someone's view is, you talked about it. You were able to talk about it. And I don't know when that stopped, but it's got to be with the rise of social media where everyone could be anonymous.
Well, I always hold to the idea that, relationship changes everything.
Mm-hmm.
So you might have an opinion or a worldview until you get to know the person who maybe thinks differently than you. And you're sympathetic, you're empathetic to the why behind why they approach a topic or an idea the way they do. And I think you're dead on right. With social media, I literally was on Facebook the other day, and I'm I don't even know who this person is. They posted some dumb political thing. And I'm I don't even know who this person is. I don't know why we're friends. Delete.
Yeah.
Just delete them. And it's I don't have that personal relationship, and it changes the way that you look at those people. It changes the way you look at their worldview. And I think you're dead on right. With social media, it's kind of the biggest blessing and the biggest curse of the past decade.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you look at it like a hammer, it could kill or it can build.
Right.
And I don't it was too much too fast. I remember being in film school going we were never meant to know what each other thought.
No, not at this level. No. And I remember you said something to me. We went camping, and
you go.
Yeah, go.
Keep going.
We went camping, and it was some holiday weekend, and my brother-in-law loves our campfires. We all camp together, a group of 20 of us, and he'll find the campground we're going to and then have someone deliver a huge amount of wood. Well, he had, and you had given me this advice, he had stacked this crazy wood Jenga thing, and it was burning like crazy.
Yep.
And I made a reel of it, and I hit 5 million views, and people were brutal. Like
For a stack of wood?
for a stack of wood. My brother-in-law had an American shirt on, American flag shirt on, and they turned it political. They turned it that he was white. They, like they did everything. And I'm like, this man is just trying to make a fire for his family. Like,
What was the argument that they were saying? What was
Is this picture still there?
I still have the reel up. I turned the comments off it because they were being so brutal. And, if it were about me, it'd be one thing, but it was about him. And I didn't want to put him out there in that way to get that kind of abuse. And you had said, post it and ghost it.
Yeah.
Which for me is okay, but I'm not going to post something and then let them abuse someone who I care
you don't want to let
about.
somebody pile on you is fine.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I could care less what anybody thinks of me. None of my inner value is based on anyone else's opinion.
Good.
So, it's out there somewhere. It's this giant Jenga of wood, and they were mad that he was white. They were mad that he was wearing an American flag on a shirt. They were mad that we were wasting wood and not giving it to other people in the campground. Like just the nonsense.
Do you think at some point that just becomes like once you see everybody piling on, everyone's like, "Oh, gloves are off. We can go
might
after
as well.
this." And I don't even know if those people actually believe those things that they're saying.
Yeah, it was just this random man, just so crazy.
I was on X the other day, and somebody's like, "I'm ready to start an argument," and they put up a picture of a rock, and they said, "This is a piece of paper," and that was their argument, and it started a shitstorm.
Oh yeah, people are just ready. I think everyone's so angry. They're just ready to.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Well, because the storyline that we seem to hear, and I just had this conversation this morning with somebody, is the trend, the storyline that we're hearing. Unfortunately, everything has become so political, and both sides are telling you to hate the other side, and it's just like, I don't need enemies. I could just have friends. That's fine.
Yeah.
Like I can easily walk away from it, and it's just like it's permeated our culture to a dangerous level. You look at. What's happening with, assassination attempts and all those things that are going on.
Oh,
and
that's
it's
fake
like,
news.
oh God. Oh no. But like, it's the back and forth. It's the othering people, and putting people in tribal camps and, having to make sure that, you don't associate with this person because of this intangible trait or tangible trait. And it's like, it's mind-boggling what's happened.
Do you remember when I first came here and I had said that to you? Since I didn't know anybody here.
Yeah.
I don't know who I don't know, and I don't want to connect with someone that's going to ruin the potential of me being here because it is so polarizing.
Yeah.
And so I had to tread like so
You're
carefully.
walking through minefields.
Yeah, because I don't know anybody here, and maybe they hate Micah, and anything that I talk to Micah about is trash, or maybe you just don't
Definitely
know.
if you talk to me, you.
Did I ever tell you about how I feel like I'm in the presence of royalty here? Because
What?
Well, you're welcome. Thank you for being here.
Say it in your ASMR voice.
Thank you for being here.
I was lost I listened to YouTube like binaural beats and stuff to like calm my brain down. And somehow you were the next thing for me to see, the novella guy.
Novena guy?
Novena guy.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, Novena guy.
That's funny.
And I got so hooked on that. I watched every single thing.
No, you didn't.
I did, dude. I did. And then I came and found you on Facebook because I'm like, this is freaking hilarious. And then we became Facebook friends. And
Yep.
I don't know if I ever told you this.
You never
but
told me this.
Yeah. I'm like, that's how I
hysterical.
found you. And we became Facebook friends is because I'm like, this guy.
So wait,
guy's
how did you
funny.
two connect? I know how we know
was
each
that.
other.
That was that.
That was
Through
it.
Novena guy?
Okay, so no. We connected. Okay, so we. All right, back the truck up. Back the nativity scene up for a second.
Wait, did you ever get in trouble for that?
I'm gonna. Do you want to know the Novena guy story?
I would love it because I'm telling you, like,
We actually first met at the golf tournament. Remember the golf tournament that we went to?
Yeah, that
was the first time that we actually
In real
physically
life?
met.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Wait,
we
did
knew
you
each
know
other.
that I knew him?
I don't think I knew that you knew him.
So I just showed up with this like
This
local
famous guy from
Novena
YouTube.
guy. That's hysterical.
All right. So I'm going to tell you the story about Novena guy.
Okay.
I love that.
I live my whole life. I've gone to the Novena. So if you're familiar with Scranton, St. Anne Street is literally the widest street in Scranton. On one side is Bryn Mawr Street. On the other side is Cornell Street. My mother grew up on Bryn Mawr Street as a poor Irish girl with 4 brothers. My dad grew up 9 years apart from my uncle. So he really had there was no, siblings or anything for my dad. But Novena was always there. So when I was a kid growing up, the Novena was awesome. I swear to God. In the back parking lot, they would have like carnival games.
They had really good pizza down there too.
Oh, the food was phenomenal. And then it got corporatized in I swear to God, I can't believe I'm saying that. They got away from what it was and made it like this. Well, I'll do it here, and made it they ruined it. The Catholic Church ruined it. But everyone would always complain about how rude the Noveners were, the ones who went to the Novena. And in 2 days, I think it was 2012, 2013. No, I was with my wife. So maybe been 2014, 2015. My grandmother, who still lived on Bryn Mawr Street, they parked in front of her driveway. So she couldn't get out. And that pissed me off. And then the next day they parked in front of my driveway. And then one of them said a few choice expletives to my, at the time, girlfriend, now wife. And then there was then the next day somebody parked in my driveway again. And I wrote a note, and I put the note, they had their window open just a little bit. I wrote the note. I filmed it. I filmed myself, and I threw it in. Now, they apologized when they got back, but I was like, this is what we need to do. We need to make sure that that video got a lot of hits. So I was like, all right, I'll just do this thing. So I would do every day an homage to something about the Novena. Well, people started to get pissed.
Of course.
One of them is a very good friend of ours who got very pissed.
I think I know who you're talking about.
How dare you make fun of the Catholics? How dare you? And I'm like, I'm not making fun of I'm making fun of rude people. That's all I'm doing. I'm trying to make them not be rude people. So I did that for 2 years. And then a guy who worked at WNEP, who I've never met, sent me a graphic. He goes, "You're the Novena guy, and I made this for you. So I just figured you'd I was like, what? So that really encouraged me to do that. So then my dad, once I started doing Novena guy with the title and animations and shit like that, my dad called me. He's like, you need to stop this. He's like,
I didn't know any of this.
Oh, yeah. He's like, this is madness. You can't be doing this. And I'm
how many views were you getting on these things?
Thousands. And
I mean, he got me.
so my dad,
I just thought it was my friend being goofy.
No.
I didn't know it was a thing.
check my analytics.
It was a thing. I just thought it was Marky being goofy. So he made a graphic for himself.
So my dad, my whole life, I've been rebelling against him, right? Up until recently. Now I'm we're on the same side. I love you. You're the best guy ever. But I've always been rebelling against him. So when he said, you need to stop this, don't tell me that, because I'm going to double down. Because I immediately called my mom. I'm like, he told me to. She's like, he can't tell you what to do. And I'm like, yes. Playing the whole 12-year-old thing.
How old were you when this conversation happened?
Mid-30s. So my dad was pissed. And my mother would call me now every day going he's mad again. He's mad again. He's mad again. Now, my dad, whom I love, who's one of the best men that I know in my life, is mildly a hypochondriac. So he goes to the doctor once a week. He goes to the doctor, signs in, and the lady looks at the thing, and she looks up at him, and she goes, "You're not Novena guy." Right? Because him and I have the same name. So my father called me. He called me that night. Well, first my mother called me. She goes, "Your father's going to be calling you. It's hysterical." And I was like, okay.
I'm trying not to cackle.
No, you can cackle all you want. So he calls me that night and he goes, "I guess what you're doing is okay." And that's how it, and that's how it's been ever since. I've gotten, we've been talking about it for years, doing a live podcast. in the backyard. Now, my backyard is amazing because it's 4 houses away from the novena, but you can hear it in surround sound because it echoes off all of the other houses. There's a perfect spot to listen to it where it feels like you're in an IMAX theater.
I think my favorite video is where you take a sip of coffee and it's like a, and then the music is in the background.
Yep. Usually I'm like, that's not Stairway to Heaven. And I don't plan them. I just walk out, whatever the first thing that comes to mind is what I do. And did you see the one with my nephew?
I don't think. Well, I mean, I saw them all because I got hooked.
So my nephew's like the little Goldilocks looking kid at the time. And I'm like, what do you think about the music? He's like, make it stop. I was like, okay.
Well,
so yeah, that's how but then like people know me from that. It's so bizarre. It's so bizarre that like I posted and ghosted. I never really interacted with anything. And then early July, people start coming up to me. They're like, it's coming.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. So
you probably draw people in, as a matter of fact. You're probably helping it.
I don't besmirch anybody for whatever faith they practice. Just don't be a jerk while you're doing it.
Yeah.
That was my whole impetus for that. But yeah, that's how did you grow up Catholic?
No.
What are you, a God-fearing atheist?
No. I was brought up Baptist, and then
The only true religion.
Or as Micah says it, Baptist.
I've heard that before.
Yes.
And then I kind of wandered to the Methodist side because of all the backdoor Baptist stuff. So
What's the difference?
I think it's a little bit more lax, a little less judgy.
All right, folks, you know how it goes. We've got to pay the bills around here, but hey, today we're doing it the healthy way. We're diving into the Trinity pack from the Root brands. First off, we've got Zero In. In a world where your attention is pulled in a million directions, much like my wallet at the end of the month, Zero In is your focus superhero. It helps you cut through the chaos so you can conquer your to-do list and still have time to wonder where all your money went. Then there's Clean Slate. Because let's face it, after dealing with bills, taxes, and that unexpected car repair, we all need a reset. Clean Slate isn't just about detox, it's about wiping the slate clean from all life's little toxins. Think of it as the refresh button for your body, helping you to start anew, or at least feel like you can. And when you're lying awake at night wondering how to make ends meet, Restore is there to help you sleep like you've just got a raise. It supports your body's recovery so you wake up ready to tackle another day, or at least to creatively budget. But wait, there's more. The Root Brands has a whole suite of products, from Great Barrier Reef for your skin, because stress shows on your face first, right? To give me back my youth for when you feel like bills are aging you faster than time itself. And here's the kicker. Because you're a part of our What a Week family, you get the VIP treatment. Use the code WAW20 at therootbrands.com for 20% off your first order. That's right, saving money while saving your health. So instead of letting the bills get you down, let's get back to our roots with the Root Brands. Cleanse, focus, restore, and maybe, just maybe, laugh a little at life's expenses. Thank you for watching. Keep tuning in, and remember, when life feels like a financial roller coaster, it's time to zero in, clean slate, and restore. Back to the show.
It goes back to like the 1800s, like within the non-Catholic Christian world, there's so many like splinters of people, and most of it has to do with just like, I disagree with you on this one issue in the Bible. I'm going to go create my own version so that I can do this. Or,
Right. Pretty much.
Well, we were just talking about that last time with, I think it was Jamie.
Not sexy enough, please.
Yeah,
Try
but
that again.
I'm gonna find you a fun fact because
And
I was
the Anglican Church was started because the king wanted a divorce.
Of course, yes.
And
Henry
so he
VIII,
left
yeah. Yeah, and that's typically how it all goes. And it's like there's all this warring against all these different, versions of Christianity. And it's like, if you really boil it down to the big things, you're all the same.
It's just God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's
Just
the
be a
thing
good
that-
person.
Yeah.
Those are my crisis of faiths when I was younger, and I'm like, it all leads to the same place. Like, why is there so much division between? Okay, here is a fun fact for you.
Okay.
I was at Andy Chomko's birthday party, and my wife started a Russian Orthodox argument
Ooh.
with someone,
Mm-hmm.
and I let my wife go. I don't need to protect her. She's always got weapons on her. Like, I'm not really. She's a Russian.
Mhm.
She's having this argument with this guy, And I'm like, all right, I'm just going to sneak in here because he's spouting off all these different like Methodist, Baptist. He's like, which one are you talking about? And I Googled how many different sects, S-E-C-T-S, of Christianity there are. And I looked at him and I said, you might as well shut up right now because there are over 45,000
Oh, my word.
different sects of Christianity that practice different things in different ways.
45,000?
45. I thought it was going to be like 100.
Right.
45,000
Now,
different.
that's one version of like Christianity, and I'm assuming Catholicism is mixed in there.
Yeah, but Christianity, it's like Christianity at the top of the umbrella down.
Right.
Whoa.
But that's just one of the 4 major world religions, 5 major world religions. I mean, so think
Buddhism,
of how many.
Hinduism, Judaism, Islam.
Yep.
And the 3 of them come from the Abrahamic religions, which is I don't know where Hinduism and Buddhism fit in, but but like we're arguing. Like this is the beginning of the arguments.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah, we're arguing over the stupidest shit that we all agree on.
Well, I said that to somebody the other day. They were talking about like what's going on with Israel and Gaza, and they're like, like this has to stop. I'm like, yes, I agree, but relax. This has been going on for 4,500 years. Like this is not a new phenomenon. These people have been trying to kill each other, not for generations, since the beginning of time.
Right.
And it all boils down to 2 brothers got into it, and here we are 4,500 years later, and World War III is right around the corner.
Is it a weird time?
Oh, I say that all the time. And this is such a weird time. Like the weirdest of times. Everything is just weird. Nobody can get along. What's right? What's wrong? Everything's upside down. Like you can't believe anything.
Have you been, when you were, I want to get, obviously we're going to get the chop.
Oh yeah. Let's talk about that too.
I have so when did you leave the farm?
I still live there. I still live in
Did you
Lacey.
still live at your homestead?
Yeah. Well, not my homestead, but I live in Laceyville. I moved about half a mile away from town into the woods
So you drive an hour
every day, each way.
Do you really?
Yeah.
I got some podcasts for you to listen to. Do you like CA guys? Who do you like? Who
I
can
burn through them like crazy. Yeah.
Why stay there? And you probably have a really good reason for this. So like, why not move closer to?
I don't want to live here, man. I don't want to live in the city.
Urban.
Yeah. I don't want to live here where I can't go out and listen to birds and garden and
Where there's no noise pollution or light pollution.
yeah. Like I can see all the stars.
Well, and for you, I mean, that's home.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Like, for me, I live 4 blocks away. Like this is home.
Right. So
And-
like you could move from Green Ridge to West Side or whatever, and you're still living in the same place.
Mhm.
But for us,
Home is,
this chunk of land.
yeah.
But most people don't realize it. Oh, this is going to make me seem so weird. So
You're worried about starting that
Right.
now.
I'm like, what?
so whenever I want to like calm down, I'll play Microsoft Flight Simulator on my Xbox, and it looks real.
Okay.
Like they got the graphics to a place where like it looks real. And I left Avoca Airport, and I flew all around like this area, and it's beautiful,
Right.
and it's mostly not urban. And it doesn't make sense to me why people don't appreciate, or maybe they do. Maybe they do appreciate, living where your neighbor's, a half a mile away and not 7 feet. But at the same time, I don't think they have any perspective of that. So what CHOP does, and I'm just going to move forward with this real quick, is that like CHOP helps kids in need, right? And I don't think that you care who their parents vote for. I don't think you care what country they come from, what their backgrounds are. They all deserve an opportunity to get food. But I don't think a lot of the kids, especially in the urban areas, have experienced a creek,
No.
or like,
Yeah.
have you ever looked up at the sky and just seen all the stars? Do you experience, do you talk to them about that? Or do they convey that like, oh, you live
No,
rurally?
I don't really get a lot of interaction with the kids unless I'm setting up a school
Or
pantry
maybe like
or
the
something.
volunteers or anything? Do they say like, man, wouldn't it be nice to have like a retreat for a weekend for some of these kids to just,
That's a great idea. Let me
Oh,
shovel
write
are
that
we going to
down.
start a camp?
Let me just write it down. Actually, I was just in Atlanta at a.
What is that? That just lit up.
This is a remarkable. Everybody, this is a remarkable. I don't get any money for this, but it is a.
I thought it was a notepad. You touched it. It lit up. And I was like,
It's a tablet, but there's no connectivity, so there's no clock, there's no notifications. You can just write.
oh my God.
It'll change your life.
Keep going.
So
Write down getaway camp.
yeah, I wrote camp. So it's funny that you say this because I was just at this thing in Atlanta and we were brainstorming on next steps for our organizations. And I wrote down this camp and now you're bringing it up again.
It's the
So I know
universe.
it's supposed to be. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know it's definitely supposed to be. And that was just, what is today? Friday?
Friday.
Yeah.
That was just Wednesday. So 2 times in 1 week. So I know it's real. It's a great idea. No, we don't really talk about that, but it does make me feel for the kids who live in the city because the other night it was a beautiful sky and I can just go out and lay in the yard and stare up at it and, watch shooting stars go by and like all that kind of thing. So,
Did you see the aurora last night?
I saw the lights in the sky, yeah, when I was coming home from work.
Dan, that was so creepy.
That's my quiet, sexy laugh.
I think I
You sound like Beavis is Thorzine's dad. Why would you laugh like that?
What made you think that was a good idea? We're having such a nice moment.
Look at all these smiles on these faces. It was a great idea.
That stands 99 cents a minute laugh. That was the weirdest thing I've ever heard in my life. Thanks for calling that out. I was just going to go by it. I was just going to breeze by it, but I was like, man, that was too creepy.
I don't know why, but I'm just so in tune to Dan today, and I don't know why. I'm obsessed with
poor
it.
Dan.
This is why ASMR is dangerous.
That's me, my new future is ASMR.
So, okay. All right. Hold on.
So camp.
Camp.
Let's get to a serious subject.
Okay, here we go.
Okay. What did you notice? What was the impetus for you noticing a food crisis in this country, or at least in this area?
I didn't.
Okay.
You want to hear the whole story?
I want to hear. We're all about you today.
Well,
Yeah.
tell my husband quick. My daughter came home from school and had recognized that if the kids in her high school didn't have money to eat, they just didn't get to. So she came home and said, "Mom, you have to do something." Now, at elementary school, if they didn't have money to eat, they still got milk and PB&J. They didn't get the warm stuff, but they got the cold stuff,
Right.
which right in itself is like, haha, you're poor, you just get the cold stuff. But then at high school, it's haha, you're poor, you don't even get to eat. So either just sit there or go pretend you're doing something else. So she's like, "Mom, so dramatic." She never had experienced that. Chad and I both had good, stable jobs and things were okay. And
Did you grow your own food at all? Like vegetables or
we do
anything?
now. We didn't
Okay.
then at
Okay.
that point. We definitely do now. But I knew that. I grew up that kid in high school who during lunch would go study or go meet with a teacher or whatever to make myself scarce because we didn't have the money for lunch. And, it's less embarrassing to excuse yourself than to sit there while everyone else is eating around you because you don't have money for lunch that day.
I didn't realize kids did that. Okay.
Yeah. So I would just always go to the library or have to meet with someone during the lunchtime or after school. If you're in the country, if you have a sports game, sometimes it's an hour to the other school. And so you'll stop at a McDonald's or something on the way home and you just stay on the bus if you don't have that dollar to go in and get something. So it's no, I'm not going to come in. I'm going to study. So I knew it existed. I just didn't realize it existed on the scale that it did, or that it still existed on that scale. Because that was 20 years prior, and
Yeah,
so
but you were one of those kids.
I was. Yeah,
Yeah.
My parents, they just made not enough to be okay. Like they both worked. They weren't extravagant. Like they shared one car, but they made just enough to not get any benefits. And so it
Isn't
was,
that nice?
but not enough for things to be okay. Like things
Isn't
were-
that nice?
It's infuriating, which is exactly the reason why we don't do any income guidelines for any of our programs, because I can't tell a child no because their mom makes $5 too much a month. So nothing that we do has income guidelines attached to it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Hey, thanks. It makes things trickier though, because that means we don't get any state or federal funds because everything that they do has to have income guidelines.
Yeah, there's always some sort of devil's bargain to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, she brought that home and I did do something. Started a backpack. Well, I'll give you the whole dang story.
I want the whole thing.
Story. Most people don't know the whole story.
When did this all start? What year?
That was 2014.
Okay.
Okay. So I had a consignment shop at that time with my mom. It was successful. It was great. And so we had a thriving social media. And so I put the word out, hey, if you need food, come on in, no questions asked. And we had this bookcase and had one shelf with like mac and cheese and PB&J and bread and stuff like that. And it would just get wiped out. And so that one shelf turned into the whole bookcase. And we're like, whoa, our community's really in need. And then we took 1,000 square feet of the back room and turned it into a pantry. And it wasn't enough. So in 2015, we sold the consignment shop and started a standalone food pantry, which still exists in Wyalusing. And it was just to serve that community. And it's still there. It still thrives. And it's going great. And then I started getting calls from other schools saying, will you do what you're doing there for us? But our mission statement had restricted us to just that town. And so in 2019, I started CHOP. It was Child Hunger Outreach Partners then. And I had 45 kids receiving a backpack program. And it just took off.
Now, what's a backpack program?
So every Friday, the kids take a bag home and it's got 2 breakfasts, 2 dinners, 2 fruit/veggies, whatever I can source, and then a handful of snacks. So you will see snacks in our bags. I always get hate mail whenever I'm on the news because they're like, do you even work with a dietitian? Those kids don't need chips.
Well, seed oils.
They don't need them, but they would like them.
Yeah.
So, seed oils.
Well, in moderation, that's the thing. It's like in moderation, sure. Like that's why it's called a snack.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. It's like you did good. You got a good thing on your test. You can eat the half a bag of Skittles. And that's what you get for the month.
Well, I mean, it's like they're like little 3 chips in that bag.
Yeah, they're small bags.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what they get every Friday. But we recognized that at the high school level, so the kids would take those home. They'd skip down the hall. They're so excited to have those bags because they want to eat. But at the high school level, as soon as they'd get to high school, they'd stop. Now, you know that they still had the same level of need. It's just the stigma kicked in. They were too proud to carry that bag. And I never would have carried that bag. No way. No way. No way. We lived in a trailer park and I had the bus drop me off half a mile down the road because I wasn't letting anybody see that I lived in a trailer park. So
really? Okay.
Yeah. So like I never would have taken that bag home ever. And so we started with a school pantry and it was such a huge success because those kids would go in there and I'd put things in, I call them normalizers, but like I'd source food, but I'd also source other things like Starbucks water bottles or Gatorade or beef jerky. So the kids that are in there, because they need to take a can of soup home and an apple and a bag of oatmeal, are next to kids who want to be in there for that Starbucks water bottle. So there's no stigma that way. It just normalizes everything because the coolest of the cool kids are in there for that free Starbucks stuff. So when you're in there next to them, you don't feel any type of shame.
Yeah, you don't feel weird.
Yeah, it's just normal now. It's just completely normal now.
So what was I want to read this because this is fascinating to me.
All right, let's hear it.
CHOP serves 19 counties.
20 now.
Time for CHOP to update their website.
Yeah, she just did actually.
Each week you give meals out to 50,000 children. I'm sure that's increasing.
It is. We're in 180 schools now.
That's so okay. This is a good place to go. Why? What happened? Like how did like in your perspective, how did this become? Was it always an issue? Is it more of a is the issue getting better? Is it getting worse? It seems like it's getting worse.
It's definitely getting worse.
What without getting arrows slung at you, what do you think those reasons are that it's getting worse? Like the fact that kids can't have a healthy meal where 100 years ago it would be a healthy meal, or they'd have something,
Mm-hmm.
you know, whether it was grown in the yard or sourced down the street from
That's
a neighbor.
exactly it.
So what do you explain to me? Because I have 18,000 reasons in my head, and as you can tell, I can't form a sentence. It's so frustrating to me.
I think one of the huge things is 100 years ago, 50 years ago, heck, 50 years ago. I'm getting old. Ooh.
We all are.
We'll say my mom's age, and she's young. She's a young mom. She was a teen mom. But even then, they had gardens. Everyone had gardens. And so they would hunt and have gardens. And even in the city, they'd have gardens, victory gardens, or just little things. And people helped each other out. And now everyone's so siloed. You don't know who your neighbors are. People are constantly moving. There's no sense of connection or anything like that, or even to recognize that your neighbors need help. I mean, Bailey had gone through that level of school. She was in high school and didn't recognize that she had friends who were food insecure until it was sitting across the table from her. So I think that there's definitely a stigma piece. People don't want to talk about it, and people are so disconnected from each other.
So why stop that? Like I read a thing the other day, because I'm always worried about the future. I think weird stuff's happening in our world that we won't go into it.
The weirdest.
Weird. The Great Depression. The reason why there wasn't such a loss of life is because 40% of Americans had gardens, and today, I think you and I talked about this.
I posted this.
It's less than 0.5%.
Yeah, 0.01.
Right. So
Yeah.
if a Great Depression happens again, it's going to be epically disastrous.
The worst.
Well, I mean, I think you have to look too at the industrialization of food.
Mm-hmm.
You know, probably has a lot to do with it. You know, some people, you know, some ex-military, people have on social media lately been warning of, you know, the potential for some sort of, massive energy grid issue. And they talk about when that happens, or if that happens, you've got about 3 to 4 days before it turns chaotic, because people can't get food now.
Mm-hmm.
People don't have access to water. You know, when, New York City is going to become a serious problem. Philadelphia is going to become a serious problem.
Zombie apocalypse stuff.
Yeah, but like people like yourself who are essentially could be self-sufficient are going to be fine. But like you said, less than 1% of people are in that camp. You know,
which is unnatural to all of human existence.
Except for the last 100 years, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I appreciate the industrialization of food to bring food to people, but it took away the value and the education of how to, like, when all the lights go out, what do you do? And when I ran for school board, one of those things that I was trying to do was, like, I said, if I get in there, like, we have to teach kids how to, like, grow food. That's what I want. I want that and jujitsu. Those are like the two things I wanted to do. It's like they have to do conflict resolution and figure out how to grow an eggplant or a tomato. And I'm trying to rack my brain and go down all these rabbit holes to see where the inflection point of that was, that we got away from our humanity and our oneness with the symbiosis of our world.
Yeah. It's so funny that we're talking about this, because at that cohort retreat, we talked about what next steps were. And I was talking about how there's not enough food in the charitable food network for me to continue to expand at the rate that I have. There's just not food out there.
You've hit like a brick wall.
Yeah.
At some point, people need to realize at some point you do reach a brick wall with that if you don't start doing your own proactive measures.
Right. So, I mean, we're sourcing food from everywhere we can, and we're, you kind of get stuck. Right. And so I was thinking about how I can, instead of expand, better serve the kids that we are feeding. So how do I teach these kids to grow potatoes in a bucket on their back porch, to grow tomatoes on their front porch, to have strawberries hanging from a planter? How do we teach these kids to be able to be self-sustainable? Now, not today, but I can send seeds home to them and have YouTube videos and, Facebook Lives and demonstrations. And we put in for some really big grants that would give every student one of those little grow stations.
Oh,
for their
shit, it's
kitchen
awesome.
counter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see if we get them, but I want to start moving that piece because right now I'm a Band-Aid. I'm nothing more than a Band-Aid. If I stop feeding those kids tomorrow, all of them are hungry again tomorrow. I wouldn't have accomplished anything except for filling their bellies for a few years. So now I want to, while I'm being a Band-Aid, figure out how to teach them so they can be self-sustainable, at least a little bit, survive if bad things happen. Because who knows?
Well, I think instead of, it's great that you use the term Band-Aid because what was that old phrase? Band-Aid for a bullet wound? Like this is a bullet wound.
Yeah.
And we really need to start thinking about how to make sure that the generations coming know. It's really strange to me how we feel like we're this huge, progressive, technological, advanced civilization. But if the internet goes out, we're screwed.
Oh, yeah. Right. Nobody even knows how to make a recipe.
No, my wife and I during COVID, we bought like the survival hand guides. Yeah. We have boogie out bags. We have like all the stuff that is like that for thousands of years would not seem strange. Mm-hmm. And now they seem strange. Yeah.
Even to think about, I was just doing this data because I was talking to some commissioners in Bradford County, which is rural. I mean, farmland. I'm surrounded by thousands of acres of farmland. I'm feeding 25% of that county every single month.
With thousands of acres of farmland that could be like...
Yeah. CHOP is personally feeding like 20,000 people a month between kids and the mobile distributions. And that's in a rural area where they do have room to grow their food.
I've been.
Is it a lack of knowledge or is it a lack of desire?
What's the hurdle?
That's what I need to dig into. That's what we need to figure out the next steps because what the United States is doing collectively isn't working.
Yeah.
Because it's Band-Aiding over and over and over and over and over and over again.
Well, I mean, the other way, kicking the can down the road.
Yeah.
Like that type of shit. This because I've been talking about it for like 3 years. Somebody turned me on to, it's called vertical farming. Mm-hmm. Right? And we have a bunch of amazing developers around here.
Yeah.
We have a bunch of amazing, knowledgeable people when it comes to agriculture and horticulture and all the things that are needed with that. So it's like when you think of, this is my way of thinking of it. When you think of all the food insecurity stuff, when you think of all that goes into it, right? So all that food, somebody's going to buy it. Somebody's going to, if they donate it, they're going to get some sort of tax rebate off of it or whatever. Like, I find that most people are giving good people, but if there's a way to lower your taxes, they'll do that. That's more of a motivator to do that.
Right.
So I started looking up places. They do it in Brooklyn, China. I really don't want to do anything that China does, but if they have a good idea, like let's go with it. Why can't an area like this? So let's just say Lackawanna County, 214,000 people. Why? And we have farmland and we have warehouses and we have all the ingredients there to make this cost effective and work. Why can't we as a community, like we spend millions of dollars on the arts program. I have nothing wrong with that, but why can't we grow food that we then would sell at a very reduced cost to the people around here? It's healthy. It doesn't have, 10 pounds of glyphosate on it. And then like the leftovers, my sister was telling me about this the other day. There's fruits and vegetables that they give away because they're ugly.
Right. Yeah.
I don't forget the term that she used.
It's called misfit markets.
Yes.
Thank you, Dan. So the misfit food, right? All that stuff could go to like the homeless shelters.
Yeah.
Or the food pantries. And I think it's revenue positive to do all those things. And I don't know why we don't do it because it's such a simple thing to do.
Well, I think it really takes that one person who's going to grab the bull by the horns and just do it. Like, for example, like the way that
pointing at you.
Yeah, the way that you did, like with in child hunger outreach. It's like it just takes somebody who's going to be like, you know what, I'm going to sell my business and I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And that it's really what it boils down to. Ironically enough, because I'm just now remembering it, I've been having that conversation with somebody else, but we'll talk about it after this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Back to my idea.
Well, it's already kind of happening.
I'm on board 100%. I want to tell you, I was just at this incredible place.
By the way, put farming camp. It's a farming camp now. It's a camp where you learn to grow.
And also, Dan will go up there and talk to you through a PA system, ASMR.
Yeah.
Welcome to Camping Farm.
You take the tomatoes.
we need a better name than that.
What did you call it?
Camping farm?
Camping farm?
Yeah, it's a great idea, but terrible name.
I was just at this incredible place. It's called Serenbe, and it's outside of Atlanta, and it's like 2,000 acres of land. But when they designed it, instead of designing another development, they designed it with people in mind. So I got to sit down with the person who developed it, and she was saying, did you notice when you were walking on the sidewalks that there's no garages in the front of the house? And I said, actually, yeah. And she said, I purposely chose that way because if you put a garage on the front of your house, that eliminates your front porch. You can have a tiny front porch, but you can't have a big front porch where you're communicating with the neighbors who are also walking by. And your neighbors aren't going to walk by if every 30 feet they have to watch for a car pulling out of the garage.
Okay.
So she designed this whole area. I'm going to get to the point, but she designed this.
You can take as much time as you want, Danny.
This whole development around community where the kids can drive the entire development on their bikes without having to worry about if a car is going to pull out of their garage, and everyone's on the front porches and they can wave and see these kids like it used to be.
Yes.
Everyone had their eye on everybody, and the parking was in the back or on the street, and it's fenced, the whole thing, all 2,000 acres.
It's a community.
It's a community, and they have their own farms that are organic, and it's like a commune though, but for rich people. But it is.
You got nothing, Dan?
Nothing, Dan. Sorry. I mean, she admits it. She said this is giving people who already have options even more options. Like the lowest price starts at $1 million for a house. So it's Atlanta people who don't want to be in the city. But it's so brilliant. But it's just so what it was supposed to be 50 years ago or 100 years ago, where people are living as a community, not as just disjointed houses. And it was so cool because those kids were doing Montessori. They were out playing. There's common greens, and there's just kids everywhere from all over the development. There's 800 people who live there just playing in the common greens. And then there's the animals in the background, and it's
beautiful.
It was incredible. And I wanted to come back, and there was a developer I wanted to talk to about it because it's like utopia. You could build a community of 800 to 1,000 people where they can still be self-sustaining and still have jobs. And it doesn't have to be exclusive. You're either a farmer or not. The way she designed this community it can be everything. And it was so incredible. It's like the answer.
My mother would tell me about my great grandparents, and they lived in the city. And she's like, we barely went to the grocery store. Like, your great grandmother had the potatoes and the carrots and this, but then your other grandmother had the other things that no one else had, and it was always like a trade. And there was you have the things that we need, we have the things. Here's what's going on in season, and they were basically practicing like regenerative farming and co-ops and like all these things that are like they bring you together too. You know, it's like, man, I really can't piss off Myrtle this week because I really need those radishes. So we'll figure out a way to like get over the hurdle. We're trying.
Everybody's got to play nice.
Yeah,
that's what it instead of and everyone was armed, but
but you need each other.
But that's the point. So instead of like relying on DoorDash or Uber Eats or McDonald's, everyone, and there was time. You had time to cook food. You had time to like appreciate it.
Do you think we don't have time now, or do you think people just are filling their time with nonsense?
My philosophy is the government ran out of money quite a few years ago and said that we need to get women to work so we can double our tax rate. That's my thing. And what you do in that moment is like, you might go like, oh, we need money, like that works. I'm all for what women want to do and freedom and all that, but it ostracizes women who want to just be moms.
Right.
And it makes them feel othered because like mom's the hardest. I don't care if you're a rocket scientist. Mom is the hardest job.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of responsibility there. And I think I went from like this pro-feminist to like, wait, we have to go back to, because we see the outcomes. They're not good. Like the way kids are not healthy anymore. They're dumber. They have no critical thinking. What's it? 70% of Democratic women are on some sort of SSRI or some sort of mental health drug. Like obviously they're not happy. So instead of making it seem like there's a pill or there's some sort of trick that you can do, the simple things worked, and they always worked. And I think I don't know why we keep getting away from this stuff. It's like, why are we fixing things that aren't broken?
You asked the question like, do people not have time for that anymore?
I don't think they have it now. No,
I do. I go back to
tell your wife that.
She's great, but like,
you don't have time for it.
No, you do. And a good friend of mine, he's a trainer, and he owns a gym. And the one day I popped in to go have a little workout, and he's like, "Hey man, I haven't been seeing you a lot lately. I'm really busy. Like I just have a lot going on." He goes, "No, you're not. You just don't prioritize this. Yeah. If something's important to you, you will make it a priority and you will get it done. If it's not important, stop making excuses. You just won't get it done. And if cooking a healthy meal and sitting down at the dinner table and spending quality time is important to you, you'll find the time. I think everybody has the time. It's just they're prioritizing getting on Facebook or going to do this or meeting with the friends or going to play golf, or it's just, I think that we do. I think that culturally we have just shifted away from kind of a little bit of what you said of like those kind of family traditional values, healthy food, doing it together, have become just a non-priority in our culture.
We also have to bring work home with us too, I think, and that's a big thing.
Oh, that wasn't sexy at all.
He can't do the ASMR without getting the frogs in his throat.
We also bring our work home with us, and we're very connected to that. So like we're working like 16 hours a day. Whether you used to be able to just leave it at the office and come home.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm still real high up there.
Why are you working so much?
Because I can't stop.
This is my question.
I don't have email from my work go to my phone because I don't pay for my phone, so I refuse to. And I try to not work outside of the hours, but I still do. I mean, I work a lot of hours every week.
This is the cyclical question that I'm asking, not just about you, but so
burn them down.
Not.
Uh-oh.
No, I'm like in general as humans. So we're working so much to do what? To buy our houses and buy our food. But if we built our houses and built our food, you wouldn't even have to work at all. You could just sit around and...
You don't want to live in the house that I build.
We'll have some friends, but...
I don't want to live in the house that Mark and Micah build.
I'm pretty good.
I could do inside stuff, but...
I just think about, we spend so much time, so we have the money to do the things that
don't matter.
We just need to eat and have shelter. And I spend a lot of time camping, and it's like a little escape, but it's slow living, and it's what humanity has done for hundreds of years is thousands. Thank you. Thousands of years, sit around a fire and cook together and talk. And there's nothing else that you need to really do. If you can hunt, I know this is going to sound real primitive, but I mean, you could hunt and gather and grow and build a rude shelter and be real happy.
So what I'm hearing you say is we should just build like a commune compound.
Dude, let's.
Okay.
I
write it down.
Okay. No. Look. Here's the problem.
Compound.
Farm camp compound.
Okay. Here's okay.
Guys, we're getting a lot done today.
I agree with
FCC, is that taken?
I agree. Yes, it is by the government. It's another agency we don't need. I always look at these things. I think they're great. I think to like have a community or a commune or whatever the hell you want to call it, where everyone works together. But the problem is like people have, and they're human. I get it. They have preconceived ideas of what that's going to be if they've never done it. Someone like you knows exactly what you're getting into when you say that. The person who's lived in Brooklyn their whole life that wants to do that, has never experienced that. They've never grown a seedling to a tomato plant.
Right.
Most likely they haven't, right? And there's a lot of people that think like, oh, there's no rules. We'll make up our own rules. And it's like, no, the community has to have rules. Like
Lord of the Flies.
Yes. I don't want to be the chubby kid in Lord of the Flies. No one does. Although how was he chubby back then? Doesn't make sense. They had good diets. I don't know. Unless they had Mars had their Skittles back then. That's the problem with like, I see like these communities, like you have to be incredibly like-minded people and you have to agree on like, here is the baseline of the morals and the values that we want to bring to this community. Everyone can have their own opinions and all that stuff, but like the fundamental things have to be there. And I think that's the hiccup that comes with like literally trying to reinvent the wheel because we've all gotten away from the thing that makes life meaningful.
Right. Real. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to be a hardcore liberal. So like for me to like wrap my head around this stuff, it's like, yeah, I want to live like this, but then I'm like, I've never done it.
Yeah.
I don't know how hard it will be. I don't know how easy it'll be. I would do it tomorrow if I had the opportunity. But part of it's like, oh, what am I setting myself up for? And I'm sure after like 2 weeks, I'm like, I got it. Like I figured this out.
But then there's people that after 2 weeks, they'd be like, man, this isn't enough for me.
Not enough.
Like I have to do more. Like there's more out there.
But that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's a good that for people to learn more and be like, I want to do more of this. And I'm all for it. Get excited about it. What do you think? How after all the things, like after the things that we just talked about, what do you think we're on to something about making sure that we diminish food insecurity? Like, in other words, like the plans that we've proposed, the FCC camp.
Copyright What a Week podcast.
Do you think that would, because I always look at like, you can't solve things.
Right.
You can reduce things. Can we reduce child suffering by just these few little investments and time of growing food and making sure that it's available and making sure that it's not, natural food should not be more than processed food.
Yeah.
And that's the world we're living in. So do you think maybe there's a movement right now to kind of figure out ways that our food doesn't have to go from America to South America to get a label and then come back here?
Infuriating, isn't it?
A little bit.
Well, I mean, you go to the grocery store and you know, a head of lettuce is $2, but the organic, non-GMO, whatever, it's like $8. Like, what are we doing wrong? Like, is it cheaper and easier to make things
It's
dangerously?
subsidized to make things dangerously.
Oh.
What does that mean?
There's a lot of lobbying that happens.
It's subsidized. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we pay to poison ourselves. Isn't that fun?
It's not great.
Like, isn't that not like, shouldn't that be a thing where we all sit back and we're like, wait, we're doing what?
Yeah.
Like our taxes go to making sure that we have red dye number 4 in our food and kids are getting sick. This whole Make America Healthy Again thing, I'm in. I don't care what political party you are.
Yeah.
It should really be a concern for like, why is chronic disease such a problem? Why are cancers up? Why are autoimmune problems, metabolic health? Like it just seems like such a simple, we should just do this.
Yeah. You know, this is a real problem that I have. I'll tell you. And
I'm trying my best not to get you in trouble.
Oh, no, this is a problem. It's a problem. It's a real problem. So the food that's in the Charitable Food Network is processed.
Yeah.
And that's what I have access to. And so I have a constant moral struggle. Do I feed these kids things that I probably wouldn't purchase for my own kids? Or do I feed them nothing? And my soul says it's better to feed them something than nothing. Because I know if my kids were hungry and hadn't eaten in days, I would be okay if they ate ramen today. Ramen. Depends where you come from.
No one knows.
You know, or if my kids haven't eaten in 3 days and they're getting a box of mac and cheese from my weekend bag, I'd be like, thank you for this box of
Sure.
mac and cheese. But if you look at it under a different light and you're like, why are you giving them processed mac and cheese? They deserve to have healthier things. And then I'm stuck in this constant limbo. What's better? Nothing.
It's the lesser of two evils.
Exactly. So like, which one is the lesser of two evils?
Well,
Like a forced fast or Oreos.
Like I'm
You know
doing
what I
I'm doing the very best I can.
yeah, they need
I think what
calories.
you're doing is awesome.
Yeah.
I think what you're doing is awesome, but you're right. Like there is anybody who's doing what you're doing should have a concern about like, what are we giving? And but then I assume that someone like you has an aspiration to move beyond that.
Yes, I do.
Okay,
I
good.
do. I'm so excited about it because we have data that shows that the schools that we're in, their grades are up, their disciplinary action is down, their truancy is down. So we're making a difference, even giving them this food that's processed. And so I'm working with some big funders to see if I take a subset and really clean up what we send home. So like really clean it up. If that's going to change the way the graph changes. So if I give this subset of kids better quality food, do their grades increase even more? Does their truancy get better? Like, does it shift how that looks? Or is food enough?
It makes sense, right? So if you think about if you think about like here we're going to eat better food that isn't sprayed with chemicals or isn't made in some sort of Monsanto lab that is the only thing that we can grow in this, and you know, one of the things is like the minerals in the soil, and do you rotate your crops, and do you get the things that you need? There is no reason for me, just 35,000 foot view, to think that those things wouldn't improve. It makes sense,
Right.
if you're not like, do you know that 5% of our brains is microplastics now?
It's awful.
No, that's a new one. I read that was in they did like Robert Kennedy, Tulsi, Callie and Casey Means were all in DC like 2 weeks ago testifying about, you know, I maybe you've seen this, the video where they held up, here's American Fruit Loops, here's Canadian Fruit
Yes.
Loops, and it was the same. So I think it was Brigham Bueller that said, you know, 5% of our brains now have microplastics in them, and we have like that has to be affecting you.
Oh yeah.
And the AstraZeneca. Remember the Alex Jones or Turning the Frogs gay thing?
Yes.
That's real.
It's real.
67% of children have atrazine, or of Americans have atrazine in their blood system, and that should not be there. Fluoride. The United States, the appeals court just said we should really look into this fluoride thing. And you have people who've been screaming it for 30 years. The atrazine, they've been screaming it. The Monsanto glyphosate, they've been screaming it. And they've all been called conspiracy theorists and crazy. And now it's coming home to roost. Like we need a systemic change about what's in our air, what's in our food, and what's in our water. And I think, you know, I don't know why anybody would disagree with that.
No.
I don't know why anybody would say that's a terrible idea.
I agree with you 100%.
What time's the heart out? What time do you have to go?
About 15 minutes.
Okay.
Probably.
Tell me about, with our little time left, tell me about what the future of CHOP is looking like. What are you guys looking to do?
I'm looking to go statewide.
I mean, you're almost there.
I know.
You're like a third of the way there.
I know. It's crazy. Yeah. So we're looking to go statewide sustainably.
This is in 4 or 5 years you've done this.
I know. Yeah. It's pretty wild.
It's amazing. You should be so proud of it.
It's pretty wild.
And you don't take compliments well.
No.
No, she doesn't.
Did you read that?
She doesn't.
just took it all in. I was like, she's like me.
Do you remember the day that we met?
No, tell me about it.
So Ty Holmes.
I know I was carrying that day because I didn't know who I was walking into.
Yeah, Ty Holmes.
Fan of the show, guest. We'd love to get you back on, Ty. Hope you're
I
feeling
saw
better.
him the other day. He's
he
doing,
feeling better?
He's getting there, man.
Good.
Day by day.
Good.
But he calls or texts me. And he's like, "Hey, I want to introduce you to somebody." And I was like, "All right." And
Wait, did you say you were carrying that day?
Always,
To be
yeah.
like,
Yeah. I don't know who this guy is.
Yeah.
Mexican standoff.
So So I was too. And so
That's why I said it.
You didn't know about me either.
no,
Micah doesn't trust women.
I don't trust anybody.
They've always hurt me.
And he's like, I want you to meet somebody. I was like, okay. I was like, she runs an organization called CHOP. I'm like, oh, okay. Like the hospital. I don't know. And so I'm like, you know what? It's a kid thing. It's kids that are, food deprived. I was like, all right, let's meet. And I remember saying this to you one of the times, either the golf tournament or the gala. When I came on board, you were serving, it was like in the thousands a week.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in like just a few school districts. And you asked me to help you find a building here in Scranton. And that was kind of the nature of our relationship. And I jumped on the board and, I'm never at board meetings. Don't yell at me. But I was like, I'm going to help you find a building.
It's the women thing. He's still afraid of them.
Yeah.
I'm terrified. And I'm going to help connect you. And, I helped you out with the one in Southside. And then it's kind of like, I did my job. I'm going to go back to my normal life. And, and then all of a sudden I turn around. I'm like, oh, the gala's here. We'll go to the gala. That'll be cool. And it's like, this thing is 10 times bigger than it was 2 years ago when I helped you out with that. Like, it got huge very quickly.
Yeah.
Like, how did that happen? We've never really had a chance to talk about that, but like, it just got huge.
It did get huge.
Was it just because of the need and you were willing to find a way to help fill it?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, the wait list is so long.
Really?
Counties
How many children do you think are on the wait list?
Conservatively 75,000.
That are on the wait list. So this is outside of who you serve.
Mm-hmm.
How many do you think are in the state?
Oh my God.
Well, Feeding America says that there's 400,000 food insecure kids in PA.
How?
That's the question of the day.
Is it that the parents can't economically figure out how to get it done?
Well, there's probably 8,000 factors for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you're not going to be able to pinpoint it.
Whew, goodness gracious.
Yeah, I don't think there's one. This is the reason.
Right. I mean, when cherries are $9 for a container of them, that doesn't
Right.
help.
Right.
But that's how we grew so fast. And in the beginning, I would have to say to schools, please let me serve your kids. Please, pretty please.
Mhm.
And now it's, will you please serve our kids? Because the superintendents notice the difference in their students. And then they talk to other superintendents and then they talk to other superintendents.
Okay.
It just keeps getting like that.
Are you only in schools?
Man.
No, we're also in libraries. In the summertime when school's out, we still serve the schools on a smaller level, but the kids aren't in school as much. And so we go to libraries across the state and leave food with them because that's where the kids are in the summer. And then we do pop-ups in the park and things like that, wherever we can find where the kids are grouping.
Tell me about the process, right? So what are all if let's say I have a child in need, right? What are all the things that have to get done before that kid gets any nutrition? Like what do you as an organization have to do? Like from if I'm going to ask what a farmer does, he's like, well, I plant a seed and then I grow it and then I water it and then, eventually then we harvest it and then we do this and then we do that and then we do what is the process just to get food to one kid?
Well, from the school side, the school will send a paper home with every student and then they collect them back on what parents want them. That's the easy piece. I'm constantly sourcing food from new locations. So working with Midwest Food Bank, working with Feed the Children, Central Pennsylvania Food Bank is a huge partner of ours also. Wherever I can partner, we partnered with ID Logistics and they truck for us. So when I can source food from Kellogg's or wherever, they'll go pick it up and bring it back to me, which has been a mega partnership for us. So I'm constantly sourcing. We have to make sure we have enough food because if I bring kids on and then the next week I don't have enough for all the kids, then how am I going to pick and choose which ones I'm saying no to this week? And I wouldn't be able to sleep, right? Yeah. So I need to make sure before I say yes that it's sustainable because what's worse than that? Like my soul.
Having kids that are expecting it, not able to get it.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it's terrible when they don't get it to begin with, but once they do, and then it just creates a lot of problems. Mm-hmm. And then our team and a ton of volunteers. We have over 1,000 volunteers. They bag the bags up. We load them into our cargo vans and we have 10, 14 cargo vans on the road every day delivering across the state.
From the same, do you have multiple sources? Like another, like I would, where, what would you call them? So
Warehouses? Yeah. Uh-huh.
So how many warehouses do you have across? It seems like you guys cover like the north tier of Pennsylvania. How many?
Yeah, we have one in Towanda in Bradford County. We have one in Bloomsburg, and then we have this big one here in Scranton.
And those trucks drive from all of those distribution centers to all the locations.
All the places.
How many locations are there?
180.
So every day they hit 180 places?
They get once a week. So
so they go drop it. They see here's your supply for the week, and and the schools know like how to disperse it.
Yep.
And
yeah,
man, this is terrifying. But I'm so happy that you're doing it.
Well, thanks.
But
I'm so happy I'm doing it too.
You shouldn't have to. It should all be there.
I'd be so happy to not have a job and just be planting in my garden. Like, I would love to read a book and not think about where the next penny's coming from.
Do you have to keep a surplus so that you don't have to disappoint a kid who expects it?
If you walked into our warehouse right now, you'd see about 4 tractor trailer loads worth of food, and that's 1 week. And that's just the Scranton branch.
Wait, 4 tractor trailer loads for 1 week, and that's just Scranton.
The logistics of this is
You should come
astronomical.
I'd love to.
Yeah.
Could I film it?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
absolutely.
Mini doc a chop. So I'm just, there's so much that I want to ask you because it's so frustrating that children are in need and they're not getting what they need.
When you come over, your mind will be absolutely blown. Like, anything that you are anticipating right now, when you see it with your eyes, it's going to freak you out.
Because of how much
we go through every single week.
And that has to be sourced every single week.
Every single week. Yeah, it's actually making my stomach hurt. You just saying it out loud because like
that's why you walk the creek.
That's why you live where you live.
Yeah. Oh, the stars are nice. I'm not worried about. No, it's just one of those things where I don't like. I hate to say this, but I think that either we as a society or the apparatuses that we put in place have failed kids.
100%.
And me, if I'm like, oh, the wall's failing, well, let's not patch it. Let's blow up the whole wall, tear it down, rebuild it from the start, and get it into a good place. And I think people are afraid of that. I think people are afraid of like the regrowing pains of like, let's knock all this down because it doesn't work. And as a matter of fact, it's a net negative towards helping kids. Like, it used to be that the charities and the religions would fill that gap.
Right.
And the kindness of strangers that would fill that gap. And I'm not even a religious person, but I'm like, man, we really need churches and we need like people to go, because the charity of it is what makes it okay. And then it's not a burden on everybody else. We all need to have a wake up call. Everybody. I don't care what God you pray to, how old you are. Everybody needs to have a wake up call about how we're adversely affecting children.
Yeah. I mean, where we're at in the world right now, I think we're pretty close to waking up.
I hope so. Like, I hope it's going to be one of those things where it's like the dust settles in November and we're all like, all right, let's get to work and make sure that like we reduce human suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we need the aliens to show up.
Maybe.
Project Blue Beam.
Maybe they're here.
I don't know if that'll help. Where can people find you? Like, how can they? Are you
Walking
accepting
a
help?
creek far, far away from here.
Yeah. Are you accepting? Are you always accepting, or do you have to turn people away, or organizations away? Or are you always, if someone's in need, you try to meet their need, and then you have to logistically figure out how to do that every time? Or
for humans trying to help, or humans trying to receive food?
Well, like for CHOP, for CHOP to like if a school district from, let's say, Central PA is like, hey, I heard about your organization, we need the help. Do you say immediately and then we figure out how to do it, or do you say I have to see how that? Give us a few days so that we can figure out if we can. Yeah,
we immediately start the process with them, and then we just jump in. And so, like, I'll try and find a funder in that area to start the process so I can at least get the ball rolling. I have to treat this as an emergency because your kid not eating is an emergency.
Yes.
And I've had schools will say, well, we'll start this next school year. And sometimes I have to say to those principals or superintendents, if your child at home came to you and said, Dad, I'm hungry, you don't tell them you're going to cook them dinner next school year. Like, we have to treat it as the emergency that it is. These kids need to eat first and foremost. So when someone does reach out, I'm instantly trying to source the funding that I need to make sure that I have the gas to get to them with the cargo vans.
Right.
And then just go from there as fast as I can.
I don't know why people like organizations like FEMA don't have you.
Oh, man. That is opening a box right
Yeah,
there.
I didn't mean to at the end. But like,
Why? What's up with FEMA?
nothing. FEMA's doing great. Doing great, FEMA. Keep doing what you do and get out of the way. Let everyone else figure it out. So what do they go to? What is it? Stop Chop Hunger?
Chopouhunger.org.
Chopouhunger.org.
Yep.
It costs, you have 16,558 volunteer hours. That is unbelievable.
It's crazy. People, you know what the thing is? People do want to help.
I believe humanity wants to help.
They do. As disconnected as it feels right now, if you give people an outlet to help, they will. And when they come pack bags or fill bins, everyone leaves feeling so great because they know that tomorrow that's going to be in some kid's hand. So it's not like you're doing something good that's never going to turn into anything. It's tomorrow some kid is going to hold that right in their hands and be so happy about eating it.
I've said this about Scranton before. You're in the city of Scranton. Your mortal enemies, the ones who hate you for whatever reason. If your house catches fire, they're the first people there to help. And that's something about the spirit of this area, where they're like, you're a piece of, I can't. But then you find out the house burned down. What do you need?
Yeah. We're
going to make you meals. We're going to call in whatever favors we need. And I think that's something beautiful about the people of this area. It's just, they do it in tragedy. Mm-hmm. They don't do it as a preventative.
Yeah. I purposely chose Scranton to come to. So we had a branch in Tunkhannock that sold and I had to move. And when I was looking at all the places where we could set up our next home, I purposely chose this place because it's big enough that we'd have the volunteer base that we needed to. I want to go statewide from here. I want this to be the place. Yeah.
Yeah.
And with the interstates, it's just perfect. But it was big enough to provide that volunteer base. But it's also small enough that people still cared about each other and connected at that level, just like you're talking about.
Right.
So it was purposely chosen. I could have started a branch anywhere, but it chose Scranton because of that exact reason.
I don't think there's madness to your madness. I think there's methods to it.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty pragmatic and common sense. Well, all y'all got to go. So we come back
Yeah.
after I go visit and
Heck yeah.
and then we start changing things and we start, well, not we, you, I'm just gonna be like, hey, that's good. I did my part. I did a post. Yeah.
You can come to Camp Farmland.
I will come to Camp Farmland. You going to talk in your voice again?
Say it.
Camp Farmland.
Farm camp compound.
Oh,
Farm Camp
keep
Compound.
working on it.
Dani Ruhf, I love everything that you're doing.
Thanks.
Please tell your husband his beard is immaculate and majestic. And
He's so jealous,
And it
apparently.
smells so good.
Wah. Patchouli kind of had a bad sense of it when I was growing up
I
with
see.
all the hippie girls. And I was like,
Okay.
You know how I feel about patchouli, Dan.
Different opinions over here.
You like patchouli, don't you?
I do like patchouli. Yes.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I'm more like a lavender,
I bet you are.
Do you want to say anything else?
No, I'm good, buddy.
Are you proud of the work you're not doing with Chop?
I mean, call it right out right there.
We'll really punch you when we get into 11.
He
You
said
realize
it.
Yeah, I'm great. I see everybody about once a year. If there's a golf outing or something like that. And I'm doing great.
That
Thank
made
you.
my stomach hurt. That was so.
Yeah. Real proud of you, Micah. You and FEMA. Micah should run FEMA.
I think I do. I don't do anything for them either.
CHOP, Children's Hunger Outreach, is awesome. Look it up. ChopOutHunger.com.
Yeah. .org.
.org. Because it's a nonprofit and I'm an idiot. What else can I say? Get healthy. Look into this organization. Everyone should actually consider to, everything that we're talking about because it makes sense.
Yeah.
If you think
about it.
Try and eat healthier. It's a wild way to live.
Yeah, it's nuts. Okay. That's it. Dan, you want to say it? Oh my God, he planned.
This has been What a Week podcast. If you like what you've heard, please like, share, and subscribe. And please support our sponsor, Root Wellness at rootbrands.com. Use the promo code WAW20 at checkout for savings. Thank you for listening.
Beautiful.
I'm going to throw up.
Beautiful. It was beautiful. It was so good. You were planning that for like an hour.
Yeah.
He was taking
about
notes.
20 minutes ago. I
write it down.
like writing out my script and everything. I had to look up our sponsor's website and stuff.
Oh, my cheeks.
All right, now we'll end it. You want to say it?
Yeah, we should do shows at 11 o'clock or more often.
Yeah,
What a
I'm all
week.
right with it.